Could LM GT3 cars be the ultimate saviour, the deus ex machina of the Le Mans Ultimate plot? Possibly, but I actually think it's something else happening this week that could end up being the true hidden hero. The Le Mans Ultimate saga continues to be one of the most intoxicating, intriguing storylines of sim racing in 2024. Underneath all of it, Le Mans Ultimate is an incredible, fantastic game. It feels amazing to drive, the racing's great, it looks the part, the content's great, but there are of course many caveats to that we've covered multiple times on this Traxion channel. It's also tumultuous times at Motorsport Games with a company for sale, a new buyer potentially coming in to save Le Mans Ultimate, but truly what's going to save Le Mans Ultimate is the quality of the game itself. Yes, it needs the backing and the funds to continue, but an active player base who are willing to spend the money is going to bring that. Now of course, for this theory to work, the game needs to stay fresh and keep up with things, so we're seeing another huge update tomorrow, both a free update which will improve multiple aspects of the game and bring in lots of new features that we're going to talk about, and also the release of the third of their first season DLC packs. I am of course going to look into all of the details here, but why don't I jump out on circuit straight away so you can get your first glimpse at a GT3 car. Okay, let's start by looking at the free stuff. And first of all, a free car, because we have the McLaren 720S GT3 Evo. The first GT3 car, but of course there will be 3 other GT3 cars available to purchase as part of this current pack that's going to be available tomorrow. But yes, this McLaren is free, so everybody who owns Le Mans Ultimate in, fair enough, its early access phase, will have instant access to this car. And of course the main thing about that is it means that any players who don't actually own the DLC, who just own the game, will actually be able to race in the GT3 or LM GT3 class online or offline in Le Mans Ultimate. So you can still race against the other GT3 cars, you just have to drive the McLaren. Now I said during the introduction that I don't think it's just the new content that's going to be the deciding factor in the impact of this current moment for Le Mans Ultimate. I actually think it's the free update that's happening simultaneously. It's the changes that are being made to the game. Now, we'll try and rattle through these. You can find out more information about all of these things on the TraxionGG website. But I'd say the main highlights, well, let's start actually with private servers. You're finally going to be able to host your own private servers on Le Mans Ultimate, which means you can race against your friends online, and crucially, I think for the survival of Le Mans Ultimate, for the progression of the game, you can of course host league races, organised league races. Now league racing is a massive part of competitive sim racing these days. Le Mans Ultimate sees itself as a serious sim. It is a realistic racing sim. It's focused on producing something that feels like a real race, something that feels like a real driving experience, and it succeeds in that area. And real serious sim racers who like real serious racing enjoy racing in leagues. A big part of rFactor 2's ongoing community is based around league racing. So what about other changes then? Well, VR has been improved yet again, which hopefully I'll be able to show you on screen now, which will just make it a little bit easier for those of you playing in virtual reality. We also have some physics updates that are very much worth noting. First of all, the cars have been given a little bit more grip at high speed, which should hopefully simulate downforce a little bit more realistically with the hypercars in particular, and the braking has been changed slightly, so it's slightly harder now to lock up the car. Obviously not a problem in this McLaren GT3 car, because this is the first category on LMU to have ABS, or anti-lock brakes. So we don't need to worry about the brakes locking up in this car. There are loads of other small tweaks, things like the way the AI drivers warm up their tyres, for example, which I always thought was quite a big problem. There have been some tweaks there. I'll be honest with you, I haven't noticed them in effect so far. When I did a practice session against the AI just a few minutes ago to get everything set up, they were pretty much rapid straight out of the box. I was miles off the pace, so I don't know what those tweaks are exactly, but I am hoping that the AI cars will be a little bit more close to the user when warming up the tyres at least. I'd say, however, the elephant in the room with this update, and to be honest, I don't really think it's a giant elephant. What's the word for a small elephant? I don't know. A baby elephant in the room is the new tier-based subscription system. Now, just like the private servers, all of this is going to be done through racecontrol.gg in association with SimGrid. So you can head over there to create your servers, for example, to buy credits in order to host events and things. It does cost money, by the way, it's not free to host servers. And the subscription-based tier system will essentially unlock different online events as well as other benefits in future. So there are 3 tiers to this new subscription model. You've got Lite, which is just the base content in game that you know and expect. Then you've got Pro and Pro Plus. Now, Pro is going to cost you around about $50 for the year, or if you pay monthly, around about $8, so it's not super cheap. And that's going to get you some additional online events and online championships that you can access. So now, as it stands, we obviously have daily races that you can access online. There's a ranking system, a safety rating, all of these things. But this will unlock additional events on top of that, plus some special events, some different daily races, for example, and also the ability to join an online championship, which are kind of more serious one-off events where you can maybe only do them once, for example, and a championship standing is accrued over the course of a season. That's pretty cool. And then Pro Plus is going to get you everything you get in Pro for a little bit more money. It's around about $14 a month if you pay monthly, or $84 if you pay annually. You're going to get everything you get with a Pro subscription, but you're also going to get all of the paid-for DLC and content. So you're going to get the Isotta Fraschini, Kota, the rest of the LMGT3 cars, which we're going to talk about shortly. I believe that also as part of that, you're going to get access to R Factor 2 as well. So basically, Motorsport Games going all in on the Pro Plus subscription. If you like everything Studio 397 and Motorsport Games, that's the way to go. These numbers aren't cheap for a game in early access, hence why it's an elephant in the room. But if it's giving you access to online races, if there's a lot happening, I can understand it. I think the main thing is really, every time someone signs up to a subscription, they're essentially putting faith in the survival of Le Mans Ultimate. They're showing potential buyers, potential investors that this is going to be a popular sim. It already is a popular sim, but it's going to become one of the main contenders in sim racing. For me, though, to truly become a main contender in sim racing, of course, there's still a long way to go for the game, but it's got the foundations here. I do think a strong player base of GT3 players, because we know that GT3 cars are super, super popular in sim racing, and I think right now, having a strong GT3 contingent in the game will probably attract more players, along with the ability to host private lobbies, and obviously a continually improved ranking system. Now, with all of that in mind, I think it's time we took a look at the upcoming content pack. What are you going to get for your money, and how do GT3s feel? If you enjoy watching sim racing content on YouTube or just general gaming videos, perhaps you want to have a go at creating some for yourself. This is where Elgato steps in. It has an incredible range of streaming and video production products like capture cards, webcams, microphones, cam links, green screens, anything you can think of that's going to help you with your video production and streaming, Elgato probably has a product. Just make sure you check out the affiliate link down in the description below. By doing so, you'll be able to buy those products, and also Traxion will get a little bit of assistance and support from that as well. So pack number 3 for Season 1. What do you get, how much does it cost, and how does it all feel? Well, first of all, it's £13.99 to buy the pack. That is slightly more than the previous few packs, but you can of course still buy the full season pass for just under £40, which will get you all 4 packs, the 3 that have been so far, including this one, and then another pack coming early next year. Now, this one is slightly more than the previous ones because you get slightly more content. You get 3 LMGT3 cars rather than 2 hypercars that we saw in the previous packs, but you still get 1 circuit, and that is Interlagos, Sao Paulo, which I'm driving around now. The 3 cars are the Ferrari 296, again that is the car I'm driving right now. We also get the latest Corvette LMGT3 and the BMW M4 that the likes of Valentino Rossi was driving last year and should, I believe, drive again in 2025. So to start with then, how do these cars feel in reality? Now, of course, I've driven the McLaren, as you would have seen previously. Now driving the Ferrari here at Sao Paulo. I also had a quick shot in the BMW when I was setting things up. And they don't feel like another existing title. These don't feel like GT3s straight from ACC, they don't feel like GT3s straight from iRacing. They have their own unique feel, and it does match what you'd expect from Le Mans Ultimate. They also do not feel exactly the same as the GTEs or the GT3s from R Factor 2, so this doesn't feel like an experience I've had exactly before. There are, of course, familiar traits, but generally speaking, it feels pretty new. I'm alongside a Ferrari here into the braking zone. Or is that a McLaren? Oh, it's a McLaren. The first thing you notice, of course, is the ABS under braking. Now, this works like a real GT3 car in terms of, you know, it's not just about mashing the brake pedal and getting slowed down as quickly as possible. Even though there is ABS, you do want to be a little bit gentle on the pedal, not quite fully press it. It does just give you that extra bit of confidence, though, that you're not going to suffer a massive lockup like you might have done in the GTE cars. The traction control works well too. I think the default setups are a little bit on the safe side at the moment. We don't yet have the Coach Dave Academy integration for these GT3 cars at the time of recording this video. I'm not sure if they'll be ready for when these cars launch on the 10th of December or not. But the base setup does feel pretty safe, I would say. The traction control is very high. It doesn't need to be as high as it is, but you can of course adjust that on the fly, which I'll do just now. So you can see there the default setup at 8 for the Ferrari. I think it's the same for both the McLaren and the BMW, but we do not need it, so we'll dial it down. And that is kind of a theme that I've discovered so far with all of these cars. They started off feeling pretty safe and pretty enjoyable, easier to drive than a GTE, but also a little bit cumbersome and a little bit lazy. Not to say the back end doesn't step out, you still get that slight oversteeriness on exit that you'd come to expect from Le Mans Ultimate. But the cars in general just felt a little bit cumbersome. And what I found was by just making some small tweaks to the setup, stiffening up the car a little bit, lightening the fuel load, for example, as well, because by default it's on the race fuel, the car does begin to feel like it's got a little bit more life about it. I'm still on full race fuel for this qualifying run, which is probably going to put me at the back of the grid, but I guess we'll have a more interesting race in a few minutes. One thing that surprised me slightly is the fact that these cars are actually a little bit more spinnable than I expected, especially, of course, on cold tyres. That's another thing I'm going to come on to in a minute, but I just found that even though the cars felt a little lazy at first, yes, they would eventually bite, and when you got down to the right speed and got the grip, they actually feel pretty nippy and responsive. But what I would say is when you turn it into a faster corner and just kind of trust the grip, once it actually goes a little bit and once it steps out, it's very, very easy to lose the back end and spin out. It has happened to me a few times across the various cars. I don't know if it happened in the BMW. Probably did, let's be honest. But it definitely happened in the McLaren, and it's definitely happened in the Ferrari. I just wasn't recording at that moment. Overall, though, I'm happy. I mean, I thought I would be. It's LMU. I'm happy with the GTEs and the hypercars and, of course, the LMP2s. And it lives up to the rest of them, I would say. And having that slightly more user-friendly experience with the ABS and obviously the traction kicking in, the fairly safe base setup, I think a lot of drivers who are maybe new to the game are going to really, really enjoy and suit these GT3 cars, even if they feel frustratingly slow at times. Another question you might well have is, what is the difference between LM GT3 and GT3? And you're probably thinking, well, hang on, I didn't know there was a difference between the two of them. And you're sort of right, there isn't really a major difference. The biggest thing, to be honest, comes down to BOP. So instead of the SRO and the FIA deciding the balance of performance for these cars, the ACO do, the organisers of the 24 Hour of Le Mans, along with the FIA. So you do get a slightly different balance of performance, and the cars in general are slightly slower than their SRO GT3 counterparts. The other important thing, though, to bear in mind is the control tyre. So in the World Endurance Championship, all of the tyres, or all of the GT3 cars I should say, are running controlled Goodyears, whereas in other GT3 championships you tend to see them running Pirellis or Michelin. You also don't get tyre warmers in the World Endurance Championship, so out of the pit lane, these GT3 cars are frustrating as every other class. That was a close call. They're really, really annoying. When you start braking, you start turning in, there's just nothing underneath you. And of course that's something you get familiar with, having raced the hypercars and raced the GTEs, but when you're someone who's maybe used to GT3s on iRacing or ACC, yes, iRacing takes a little bit of time to get the grip as well, but these are just painfully understeery on the outlap. You really do need a couple of laps to just build in that tyre temperature. We are right at the back of the grid here for this race, but hopefully because we went on race fuel, that means we're going to be able to go forward a little bit in the race. Now, of course, it's also worth noting, this being the third of 4 packs as part of the Season 1 pass, we now know exactly what content is going to come in the final pack. We're going to see the remaining 4 GT3 cars, so that's the Ford Mustang, the Lamborghini Huracan, the Aston Martin as well, of course, and what's the other one? Oh yeah, the Lexus as well, that's the other one. And we are going to see one more track as well, and I'm pretty certain that's going to be Qatar, which was the opening round of this season. Obviously we saw Formula 1 there very recently, and it's still not in the game, so I think that's going to be an interesting one. Interlagos is certainly interesting. And unlike with Circuit of the Americas, where I was never a big fan, I've always liked Interlagos, and I'll talk about it more in the race I'm about to do, but this is a phenomenal, phenomenal version of this circuit. I'm happy, but we're last. Just gonna go a little more aggressive on this setup for the race. Honestly speaking, I really don't have a clue what I'm doing here. Right then, let's see what we can do. We've got a 12-minute race from the back of the grid. I'm gonna try my best to actually concentrate and drive, because sometimes I spend so much time talking, I forget about doing the actual, you know, drivey thing. But we'll have a little chat about this Interlagos circuit as we go. Very difficult to get the braking right for turn 1, because the right braking point is actually after the 50-meter board, which is very rare, because it's not 50 meters to the apex, it's 50 meters to something. I have absolutely no idea what. Ooh, low traction control on lap 1 with the cold tyres, unsurprisingly throwing me all over the place, and well, I've made zero progress despite thinking I passed a few cars there. Just take a look though at the curbs and the surrounding area here, because Interlagos is a track that we see on quite a few different sims, but I don't think I've ever seen as good a version as this. Obviously, it changes over time, so this is a current new version, but it is very, very current and very accurate. When you watch like an onboard video from the last couple of years of a race around Interlagos, these curbs that I've not seen in other sims, like this here for example, this flat section with the yellow sausage, that's very new, very updated, and hugely satisfying to drive on. It feels fantastic, it looks great, and it just gives Interlagos really a new lease of life. And all that is really is just pure realism and an up-to-date and very accurate scan of the track. I don't know when the scan was done. That was close. Right, well done me, I've passed one car. Let's see if that's the peak of the video. Circling back though to the question I asked right at the start, will GT3 be the saviour of Le Mans Ultimate? Oh, that's difficult. That was a good move. But quite simply, I sort of think it can be. I don't think it will be on its own. But when you combine the hype around Sims at the moment, the hype around GT3 racing and people looking for a new experience, obviously bringing GT3 in with a free car in the McLaren is gonna at least get people talking, and it probably will encourage people to give it a go. Having the online rank system is great, but for me really, long term, combining this with the ability to host private races. I know that not everybody is into private league racing and all of these sorts of things, but to be a successful simulator, to be a successful hardcore sim title, you really need to build a genuine community of players who are going to play this game for years to come, not just for a couple of weeks whilst the online ranking races are full of drivers and everything's fresh. You want drivers who are looking for competition week in, week out. League racing is more about kind of entry-level esports and drivers just looking to have fun and race with their friends or people they've met online, taking it a step further than just regular online ranked races. And then the other thing is, when you start investing in league racing, when you have lots of communities building on your platform and using your platform, not only does that spread the word and keep the user count high, but when you have a championship with a calendar, drivers are going to be encouraged to buy all the DLC packs or subscribe to Race Control Pro Plus, for example. Because at the end of the day, you're going to want access to all of the content so that you can complete a full season of the league you're racing in. And all of this, I think, just combines and swirls and mixes together. If Le Mans Ultimate can capitalise on the hype at the moment, capitalise on the excitement of this new content, and actually sustain a big growth in player base whilst introducing the subscription system and the tier system, even though it's in early access, I do think it genuinely could be a turning point for Le Mans Ultimate. It doesn't necessarily feel like it needs a turning point as a game, because it is continuing to slowly develop. It's just more the overall financial situation and the lack of clarity on the future of the company that really needs a turning point, so to speak, to happen. So if all of those things combine together, and it actually helps facilitate, you know, the sale of Motorsport Games or just the continual development of Le Mans Ultimate, basically gives it the backing it needs, whether that's financially or just metaphorically, to continue, then I think everyone benefits, and I genuinely think this update has a chance of doing that. There's still such a long way to go in terms of the overall game though. There's still so many things that can be improved, and I guess that's exciting. The potential is still high. We still don't have a career mode. We still don't have proper driver swap races. Obviously we've got asynchronous co-op mode, which is cool. But there's still big things to be worked on. There's still more content to come, of course. The loading times, yes, in this update they've apparently been improved. It still took a long time for me to load this race here at Interlagos on this early build that we've got here from Motorsport Games. I think the other reason as well that I'm genuinely feeling this update could be so impactful is because of the current state of hardcore sim racing titles. I mean, iRacing's not going anywhere. People are still going to be on there playing GT3s, but not everyone can, I guess, afford iRacing or want to play iRacing. ACC feels like it's on its last legs, not because of anything, you know, it's not done anything wrong, it just feels like it's at the end of its development cycle. There's now a kind of ultimate bundle available where you can buy the game with all of the DLC, and obviously the Kunos focuses on AC Evo, but AC Evo is still a long way away yet. We've got this kind of quiet period where drivers who are playing ACC might be looking to jump ship and move to something else, but they're not quite ready to move to AC Evo. Now, one game, or two games I think that benefit from that hugely are Race Room, because they've been upgrading their content recently and doing some great stuff, and obviously Automobilista 2. Its version 1.6 update has really grabbed the attention of many people that are into sim racing. It's gone down very, very well. Lots of people are playing it. It's actually the most popular ever time for AMS2, so there's obviously a chance of AMS2 of capitalizing on this, I guess, potential of player base who may be looking to move to something new. And then you've got Le Mans Ultimate, and it's in a very, very similar boat. Early access, yes, but already a very, very enjoyable racing experience and a pathway to become something that can really stay at the top for years to come, because at the end of the day, the fundamentals, the foundations, the building blocks, they're all here. I really do hope that big ramble that I've just been on was somewhat coherent, because it's quite difficult to express my thoughts about it. And I've tried over a couple of videos to convey, I guess, the excitement that this game brings me, but also the, I guess, pessimism that I have to have about the whole situation that I just can't shake. I'm still really, really enjoying every new bit of content, every new update that comes to Le Mans Ultimate. And I'm still very much hungry for more. LMGT3s alone won't save Le Mans Ultimate. Community will save Le Mans Ultimate. And LMGT3 makes up one of many things that feed into the community. As always, we'd love to hear from you down in the comments below. Where do you stand with Le Mans Ultimate? Does it frustrate you? Do you love it? Are you going to stand by it through thick and thin? And how regularly are you playing it? Will you be buying the latest content? So many questions, but I want to hear your thoughts. Across the line, it's going to be P9. Not the best Sao Paulo debut, but definitely could have been worse. Do leave us a like if you've enjoyed this video, and consider subscribing to this very TraxionGG YouTube channel if you want to see more videos about racing games of all sorts, whether it's something like this where we test new and upcoming content, or whether it's general sim racing guides or reviews, or anything about the subject. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.